Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to another episode of the Lott Carey Women in Service Everywhere, Lott Carey Wise Digital Couch. My name is Doria Lenez Larrier, and I am the host for this evening. Tonight, this is episode 12. We've actually completed an entire 12 months. We began in March of 2021, and here we are at episode 12. I am very pleased and humbled to have on our digital couch tonight the Reverend Dr. Selina D. Carter. First, allow me to introduce who we are and who our leadership is before we get into our conversation this evening. So, on behalf of the leadership of the Lott Carey Baptist Foreign Mission Convention, where the executive secretary treasurer is the Reverend Emmett Dunn, our president, proud president, is the Reverend Dr. Gina Stewart. Our first vice president is Dr. Jesse Williams. Our second vice president is Dr. James Victor. And of the Women in Service Everywhere, we are proud to have as our president the Reverend Dr. Angelita Clifton, first vice president, Reverend Dr. Brenda McBurrow, and second vice president, Sister Lynette Richardson. Welcome to our couch, Dr. Selina Carter.
Good evening. Good evening. How are you this evening?
We are well. We are very, very well. Let me just set some protocol that we know to call. You know that here on the digital couch, we ask of two things, actually, probably three. Number one, make sure that you have your tea because it's going to be a really, really interesting conversation tonight. The other thing is to share this with someone. We are broadcasting on three different platforms. We're broadcasting on Lott Carey TV on YouTube. We're also broadcasting on Facebook in the Lott Carey Wise Salt group, Facebook group. And then we're also broadcasting on a public Facebook page. And so if you know Dr. Selina Carter, if you know anybody in the Lott Carey Wise family and they are connected outside of the private Facebook group or the YouTube channel, share it with someone because many people need to hear the conversation that we are going to have tonight. The last thing that I'm going to ask is if you have any questions, if you have any comments, or if there is a poignant point that resonates with your soul, please drop it in the comments and we will be able to read them, and more than likely we'll be able to interact, put them up and engage and have you engage in the conversation. Dr. Carter, welcome officially. We're so
Thank you.
blessed and humbled to have you here with us. And we already have some amazing comments, and I'm very excited about that. And so even if you want to have to shout out to some people who are in your community where you are from, please give them a shout out as at this time.
Sure. I'm from New Jersey, the Plainfield area. Want to shout out my organization, Spirit of Excellence. I'm sure some of them are tuning in this evening. And just maybe my church family, Calvary Baptist Church in Morristown, New Jersey. Just glad that they're a part of this conversation this evening.
Beautiful, beautiful. And so if you are from any of those places, make sure you drop it in the comments so I can let her know that she has her fans here. So Dr. Selina Carter, our conversation this evening has to do, we're continuing on this theme of ministry morphing, right? Doing some shape shifting on what ministry means to our communities and in a more niched conversation to underrepresented communities. The conversation that we're addressing tonight also has to do with what we're wearing.
Yes.
Those people have shown up because it is what? It is Thursdays in Black.
Mm-hmm.
And why do we don the color black? Because it is a powerful color. Not just because it's Black History Month, but because it is a powerful color that sends a message across the world. We are so amazed to be partnering with ecumenicals and those other people who are not ecumenicals, but who are who adore our mission of sending out the message that gender-based violence is wrong.
Yes.
It is wrong. And so
Yes.
Thursdays in
Mhm.
Black, again, it's such a beautiful thought that people literally around the world are donning in black to stand in power as alliance, as allies, and accomplices, if necessary, to make sure to let people know no,
It's
it's
not
all
happening. It's
it's
wrong.
not happening.
Yes.
You're right.
Mhm.
And of course, as we are women, we're also donning our pearls. So thank you so much to those people who have actually posted pictures in the Lott Carey Wise Salt. I've done my best to sort of snag some of my colleagues whenever I see them in black, like, you do know why you're wearing that, right? Let me take a picture with you. So if you can do that, anywhere in the world, please do that and just let people know. Spread the word one message at a time. It is very,
Yes.
very important. So, Dr. Carter, your organization, this is their part of their mission. We'd love to hear how you got started. What was the impetus? How did you know that this was a gap that needed to be filled?
Sure. Um, my organization is Spirit of Excellence Leadership Guidance, Inc. And it was started in 2006. So we've been around for a little while. And I started this organization because I'm a survivor of domestic violence. And when I was experiencing domestic violence, and I went to my spiritual leader, they were not equipped to provide resources and to help me with how to, be safe in my marriage. And it was just like the Holy Spirit said, you know what, you need to help other women who are in this situation. I was a teenager, um, and newly married at the time, very young, early 20s. So that's what started me into, I need to do this. And that's how Spirit of Excellence came about.
I'd like to have permission to tap into something just a moment because I think this is the first time I've heard this part of the conversation. And for those of you who are watching, before we come on live, there's only there's a short conversation that I have that I engage in with people just to sort of, get a feel of what the conversation is going to be about. But I don't ask thousands of questions. But I do want to ask this question. If you're okay with it, it's fine. When you were preparing for number one, adulthood, and number two, your marital relationship, what was a conversation that your family, your community, your spiritual advisor or spiritual community, how did they prep you for that so that you weren't looking at it like, is this what this is supposed to be like? So what was that? Because I think in the development of young women, which I know is a part of your organization, and what is appropriate and what is not appropriate, sometimes maybe we send mixed, or excuse me, sometimes mixed messages are sent, or sometimes things are not said.
Yes, and for me, it was not said. And that's why we focus on healthy relationships and teaching what is healthy and what is an unhealthy relationship. So for me, my parents, I grew up in a two-parent household, and I saw a loving parent. So I
Mhm.
didn't know what abuse look like. It's, you make your marriage work. Like, you have your differences, but no one ever said, this is what an unhealthy relationship
Mhm.
looks like. I never heard it in my house of worship what an unhealthy relationship looked like. It was just all new to me. So I didn't know how to respond, or what to do, what resources were available to me. And my family didn't even talk about it when they knew it was happening.
Wow. So when at the point that you attempted to bring it up, what was the initial response? What was the initial response?
Well, I never brought it up to them. It was like,
Mm.
we know it's happening. But
Wow.
again, it's that silence that is in our families, especially in Black families. We are prone to what happens in this house stays in this house. And that is a silent killer.
literally and figuratively.
Yes.
To those
Yes, it
people who,
is.
right, to those people who are watching, uh, this is the internet. And so this is being broadcasted, and it is and can and will be shared globally. I offer and I invite you to drop in the chat whether or not this has been a part of your journey.
Mm.
Those statements or those questions or those sayings that are a part of this conversation as it pertains to how people are raised, and we're speaking to predominantly an African community, or a
Yes.
community of African of people of African ancestry. So I'm speaking of people born in the continent, born in the Caribbean, and then born in the US. But what were those statements or comments that were made? Like, I specifically remember, what happens is in this house stays in this house. Or don't talk about what's going on in here out in the street. Or don't live your home life out in the street. But
Right.
it would be really helpful if people who have either heard it from somebody else's house, or maybe you heard it in your own house or as you were growing up. What are those things that keep these silent, disastrous situations
Yes.
more silent?
Yes, and even so in the church, some look at it as, oh, that's a marital problem. That's not a church issue. So they will work it out.
Hmm.
We don't want to get involved with that. But that silence is, how I grew up. You just don't talk about that. You don't share um that information with anyone, and you go through, it's like you're victimizing yourself, keeping it in and not sharing it with anyone, because we deal with the guilt and the shame that goes along with it. you know
Right.
we're guilty of, this is happening in my household, and then the shame that is internal. Shame is internal, that makes us hold our head down and be afraid to speak up, and open our mouths to what's actually happening to us.
I can envision, and I'm thankful that there are more shows, whether it be movies or sitcoms, that are bringing conversations like this to the forefront and to the screen, so that it gives voice to
Yes.
potential victims, just to let them know that it's not you, it's the other person.
Right. It's not your fault. Don't ever, ever think it's your fault for
Right.
for being abused. It is not your fault. And you don't have to live in shame. You don't have to be afraid. But you do need to know what to do if you are in that situation.
So some of these lines in a script that I've seen, let's say where the victim tries to share it with someone, maybe who's a friend, or maybe an elder in their community, and that person goes through that blaming, pointing of the finger. Well, did you mess up the food? Was the house? Did you clean the house? Did you make sure the grounds was swept, or that the clothes were folded nicely? Did you?
Yes.
Right, and
Victim
psychologically,
blaming.
right, would you say finger pointing or
Victim
oh,
blaming.
victim blaming, right?
Yes.
And that
Mhm.
sends people into a tailspin. And if the person is, of course, by the time they mention it to someone, they're already so filled up that it's
Yes.
bursting, because it doesn't take much for someone to say, oh, let's say if you get a push or a shove, or someone says something to you, you don't initially go running to other people. It has to get to such a state that they're like, I just can't take it anymore. I have to tell somebody. And at that
Yes.
point where somebody's like, oh, well, it must be you. What did you do? What did you not do? Were you available to, your partner, or are you holding back? Or
And that is so true. And then the person the victim will go into shutdown
Precisely.
and then deal with the violence because they think it's a result of something they did not do.
Right.
So, and that's why education is so important for our churches. That when someone comes to one of, it could be any leader in the church or someone in the church, that they know what to do, and how to respond, because everybody can't support survivors of domestic violence. It's a ministry that you have to have full confidentiality. And if someone comes to you and say that I'm in this situation, it's not something to be shared with your leadership team. It's strict confidentiality because it could be a life and death situation. And also keeping in mind that domestic violence is not just physical.
Actually,
Um,
that's the question I wanted to ask. Like, can you go through the variety of examples or scenarios that all fall into the wheelhouse of domestic violence?
Sure. Physical, that's what we could see. Those scars can heal, and a lot of people,
Sometimes.
once the scars heal, okay, we don't see it. But the psychological, the emotional, financial, the stalking, um, those are the scars that are lifetime scars that takes a long time to heal from. The emotional and the psychological abuse where um, someone is constantly putting you down, or financial abuse where you're given $25 a week to take care of a family of five, and you have to do it, or you go to work and you have to give your paycheck over to the abuser. You're not allowed access to any of the funds. Most women, when they come out of a domestic violence relationship, financial abuse is a major problem for them because they don't have access to their funds. So they need to know how to budget. um, Many women are homeless because they don't have access to funds. And for Black women, it's like one of the leading causes of homelessness, coming out of a domestic abuse situation.
If I could interject for a moment, and if someone can be a part of my stream team, you know what that is. So take notes, because if I take notes, the computer will shake. But there's a movie that just like came out on Netflix actually just a few months ago. Pardon me, and it's titled Made.
Yes.
MAID.
Mhm.
Made. Beautiful, if I can use that phrase, but a beautiful rendition of a young woman in a relationship, a parent of a little girl. And I don't want to, give everything away, but how she traversed the system when she stepped out of the situation to get herself help, to get her child help, to go through the system of building her own financial base, and how the system was not necessarily set up in her favor.
Yes.
And
That,
it's such
yes. Mhm.
powerful. And when the first moment that I saw and this is total transparency, the first moment that I saw the title Made, my brain kicked in and I went like this.
Right. What is this about?
Well, I was like, here we go again. And when I read the storyline, I was like, oh, brother. But I was very interested. And I don't know if people know why I made that face, because I thought it was going to be a storyline about us.
Mm.
And when I saw that it was a storyline with the main character who did not represent our community, I did one of these numbers. What
They,
is this going to look like?
that Netflix series it's a very good series, and it shows all of the obstacles
Yes.
that a survivor have to go through, and when you don't have a safety plan
Hmm.
to leave a domestic violence situation, sometimes staying is the safest place until you're able to safely leave.
Hmm.
And it could be the safest place for a number of reasons. If a person, if the survivor, or they have children and you need medical insurance for your children, and if you leave, you won't be able to have access to insurance. Or if the survivor herself has a health condition and she needs insurance from the abuser, so she will have
Mhm.
to stay until, she's able to get that resource for herself. And when we look at the system, um, that the way it was set up and made, that every step that she went forward, she had to go two, three, four steps backwards.
Right.
Didn't have proper
Her
child care,
identification. Didn't have her identification.
didn't have identification, didn't have a car
Right.
to work. So all these things are um, obstacles that a person face, especially women, when they try to leave a domestic violence situation.
So now let's shift to the spiritual resources that we have at our disposal. 20, 30 years ago, the leader of the church was at that time the be all and end all. Primarily, that person was a male. Being the sole resource for the community, whether it had to do with they knew who, like, so insurance brokers were, they could connect you with financial information, education, connections. They knew who the maybe like the, and I'm speaking of like insular Black communities or even
Mhm.
urban centers, but they had their hand in a lot of people's backyards, let's say, like they were just connected. Today, some of our constituents or some of the congregation can be as resourceful or as connected as the minister. And so the minister now has to do some shifting, some
Yes.
morphing about not just being the sole person to give all of this information. And maybe, hopefully they built a cabinet or a
Mhm.
team of people who have very niched specific skills. Now they have to like really share that information and share some of that responsibility. But if that person is the be all and end all, then some of the delivery of responses could be a little limited. But now in
Yes.
our congregations, we have psychologists, we have educators, we have just more attorneys. We have more physicians who can sort of like assist and support. How do you suggest a church or a ministry morph in order to, one, create that safe space, two, build that cabinet or build that, let's say, second tier or that C-suite? That's a good word. That C-suite to to create a welcoming space and also to do the networking. Because if they have not addressed it before, past, oh, just let me pray for you. Let's pray about it. Let me bring you and the other person in for counseling. And we know what that's going to look like.
That is totally against supporting victim and survivor.
Right. So how do we morph? How do we shift? How do we shape shift our
Sure.
ministries to
So,
do that?
yes. So, that is an excellent question because, yes, pastors in the past, they were everything to the community that you could go to. But now, domestic violence is one of those situations that, again, because of the stigma and shame, it's not talked about. And many of our leaders are not educated on um, domestic violence and how to properly help someone that's in that situation. So, one of the things that I highly suggest, and one of the things that I started is a training program that's called The Voice of Silence. And
Absolutely.
it's a 6 module program that helps educate clergy and church leaders on how to respond to domestic violence for survivors in their congregation. And one of the things, we can't be everything to everybody. So building a rapport with domestic violence agencies in the community, with other churches, maybe a domestic violence ministry won't be at your church, but you have connected with churches in your community. If there's a victim in your church, you can say, okay, go to this church or this organization, and they could help with providing resources. So
Mm,
if we're just a resource for a victim and their children, that is half the battle. Just being a resource, but education is key because so many mistakes are made. And you just talked about counseling. Like, you can't counsel a victim and the abuser at the same time, because they'll leave the office and she could get the worst beating that she's ever experienced, because now you have exposed the abuser. Now everybody knows about your business. And domestic violence is about power and control. It's not just a couple having a dispute. And all relationships have disagreements, but it's about power and control. When there's power and control over your being, over your thinking, over your livelihood, that's
yes.
what domestic violence is.
Thank you to my stream team. Thank you for taking notes. So we encourage other people to make sure you take notes. So Dr. Clifton says, yes, education is key. It is key. Um, so how early would you suggest that people get educated on what is appropriate treatment
Sure.
as a
So,
human being?
yeah, so as early as junior high school, even we see a lot of our young children, with cell phones. Someone is calling, and, well, who are you talking to? Where are you? Where are you going? What are you wearing? Why are you hanging with them? And as parents, we need to know what our children are doing with technology. So it starts as simple and as young as that. I can remember I was 16 years old, and just little subtle things that, as I reflect back now, it was the start of an abusive relationship.
Hmm.
Like, what are you wearing? We think it's cute, like, oh, they bought me this, and they like me in this outfit. You have to be careful, because it could start, no, you're not wearing that.
Hmm.
So for me, it started out as subtle as that. Oh, wow, he bought me this nice dress and these shoes. Now, where you going with that? You can't wear that. So it's subtle little things, but um, girls age 15 to 24 are at the highest risk for domestic violence, teen dating violence,
Hmm.
15 to 24.
So I can actually drop that down a little bit to 9 and 10-year-olds,
Yes.
because during and it those people who are in education, if you teach in elementary school, particularly around the springtime, fourth and fifth grade, it's just like when the bees start buzzing, you just literally see hormones start flying. And whether it
Yes.
is cyberbullying, whether it is, and if some people knows what I'm referring to, like the Mean Girl Club, or whether it's speaking about, what are you wearing, or how is your hair done, or you're not representing doing this and that. Some of that bullying, or some of that esteem pushing and shoving and tugging, thwarts young girls
Yes.
before it happens to young boys,
Mm-hmm.
into this thought process of, I need to be in this outfit, have my hair like this. Why is a 10-year-old that I know has fingernails longer than mine? Why? But
Right.
that, and this, I mean, it's a different topic, but it's so connected. But
Mm-hmm.
there's an over sexualization that is
Yes, it
talked about
is.
in a lot of places, an over sexualization of young girls. And whereas we'll say, hey, oh, they just want to like feel grown, or they just want to, but they're also then being looked at by males of different ages and different spaces. And when they look for that attention, they're already almost starting in that, and I want to use this term lightly, a pipeline of wanting to please and dress
Mm-hmm.
or walk or
Yes.
speak or act in a way that is older than what biologically they are expected to do. And then when they get that attention returned to them, they don't really know how to
It's in
respond
the
to it.
wrong way. It's in
It's
the
in the
wrong
wrong
way.
way. And
Yes. Mm-hmm. And this month is Teen Dating Violence Month. So one of the
somebody type
things
that in.
that my
Mhm.
organization is doing this month, we have two programs that we're offering for Teen Dating Violence Month. One is February the 19th. We're doing Dating 101 for college students. And then on February the 23rd, we're doing just general teen dating violence to help parents with, looking for the signs and understanding what some of the signs are for teen dating violence. And, the thing about teen dating violence that parents need to know, sometimes parents don't even have rights when their child is in um, a dating violence situation, especially if a child is involved, if the two have a child. So the parents can't even file charges. you know it, I can't stress enough education about this situation, and it depends upon the state that you live in, the laws for that state.
So I have a question about that. You said that parents don't have, let's say, a say. At what age does the young lady in particular, what age does she need to be that the parents cannot interject or interact or get involved?
I think, and I don't want to misquote it, but I think New Jersey, it may be around 16 that the parents, they could take the child to file a restraining order, or but the parent cannot do it against the person.
So I really, at this point, there are more than 30 people who are watching, and it's only on one platform. I don't know about the other platforms. Can someone please look that up? Can someone please verify that information for the community? Just do a Google search. Um,
Yes.
you know, New Jersey law, age where parents cannot interfere in domestic violence or DV situations. If you Google that phrase or some part of that phrase, you'll start to get information up. And please type it in the chat so that we can actually see it. I appreciate you.
Yes,
Thank
because
you.
it's like I said, it's different for each state. And when a child is involved, it changes even the more. So parents definitely need to be aware of their children, and when they're dating, and also not to put the fear of God in them, because that can push a child away. If you tell your children, if somebody put their hands on you, I will kill them.
Hmm.
So, okay, now they're afraid to come to you to tell you that this is happening, because they know that you are going to carry out what you just said. So now they'll lose a parent as a result of sharing this information. So as parents, we have to, you know, create a relationship with our children that they feel comfortable with sharing with us, and not put fear in them for doing something wrong.
So when you said the fear of God, I actually thought something different. I
Okay.
actually thought something different. I didn't think, if someone touches you, I'm like, I'm gonna kill them. Which, let's just say, of course, is a natural reaction, especially whether or not, no, no matter who the parent is. Let me say that, no matter who the parent is, because that could come out of mom's mouth, that can come out of dad's mouth.
Yes.
I actually thought you were referring to, like, either uh, like God's gonna get you, or what business do you
No.
have out doing XYZ? Again, it could be innocent, and the other person could not be emotionally balanced, and something can trigger, flip, and you may not see it. And so we are from a community where we're going to act first and ask questions later,
Yeah.
realistically, right? And of course,
Yes.
now we see that there's so many things that will happen and not the right way if we act like that. So how do we continue to share with our community that, yes, there is a, let me open up the door of communication as as children are being raised up. Let me create additional safe spaces within, not within, but outside of the nuclear family, because sometimes if the parents we're again, we're talking about a community where it's
Mhm.
not very far back, we only knew one way to handle things.
Yes.
We only knew one way to respond to that, or to something so egregious. So as we continue to educate, and we can say, well, education is key, and it is, how do we start that conversation? How did your organization, you said you have dating, so what do we have for parents? And I want to say, for the record, not all parents are going to come out to this. Not they're not all gonna, but how does your organization get that word out to those who are, like, almost like peeking through the curtain, because they don't want to step out on the porch and say, yes, I'm here for it. But if they're peeking
Yeah,
out
and
the curtain,
and
how do they do
it's so sad to say that this ministry is very tough. People, when they hear the word domestic violence, it just shuts a lot of people down, because they just don't want to identify with that. But one of the things that in 2020, I did a PSA project, and we created 4 vignettes, less than 4 minutes, to help start the conversation about domestic violence,
Beautiful.
because we are not having the conversation. And it's on YouTube. You could go to YouTube and watch it, to SOE Leadership. But it starts that conversation. And out of those PSAs, we had so many questions where
Beautiful.
people still were looking for answers. So one of the things that I do and started is start a monthly Zoom call that's called Intimate Conversations. And we deal with different topics relating to domestic abuse, or just healthy relationships in general. And this month, we're talking about teen dating violence
Beautiful.
as part of the Intimate Conversations. But we've had a number of different topics. And the one thing with Intimate Conversations, we don't record it. We don't stream it to any of our social media pages because the whole purpose of it is to allow people to ask those tough questions.
Wait, so this is a Zoom protocol thing. For those of you who are watching, this is the one time that you could probably get away with keeping your what? Cameras off and renaming yourself to some
Yes,
random like anime name. Because Zoom protocol says you need to show up. Well, this is one time. How about no? How about
yes,
I need to maintain my anonymity. I don't want to be known that I'm looking for this information because in days past it was like, "Oh, I'm just getting this information for my friend." No, how about I really want that information? I know that you have it, but I need to be incognito. So
yes.
let me just read. So we actually did get a really, really great response, and I just want to read it. It's rather lengthy, so if I put it on the screen, it's going to take up our whole face.
Okay.
So someone said, although restraining orders can be filed against household members in New Jersey, they cannot generally be filed against a minor unless that minor has been emancipated. If your child is an adult, however, you can file a restraining order against him or her if the situation meets certain criteria under New Jersey law. Here's another statement, and this one I think I could pull up. Okay, restraining order for teens can only be carried out if the teen, okay, is
Hmm.
emancipated or the teens have a child together. Otherwise, restraining order cannot be filed until age 18. Last comment. Thank you so much, Dr. Clifton, for this. And Facebook user, thank you for sharing that. We weren't able to see your name unless you click that button so we have to call you Facebook user. But thank you for that poignant information. The last is that creating brave spaces is important. The opportunity for honest dialogue is essential. We thank you so much
Yes,
for that.
yes, it
This is
is.
amazing. So, can I ask a question? If so, who do you have to be in order to get into that Zoom call? Like, how do we just do? Because I really personally want to send the information out to people and say, get it for your friend, get it for your cousin and them, whoever you want that you think needs to get that information. So, is it just like a private Zoom link?
Yes, it is. We posted like the week and a half before the topic is coming up. So if you would like
Okay.
to join our mailing list, you could text SOE Leadership to
Wait,
828.
take notes. Hold on a second. Wait,
Sure.
say that again.
You can text the word SOE Leadership to 42828.
2, 8,
And you
2.
will automatically join our mailing list and you can stay abreast of what we're doing. And also for the month of March, we're always working with the victim. So we're rolling out a new program that's called Barbershop Conversations, where we have men that are going into the barbershop and talking with other men, older men, younger men, about domestic violence.
Wow. Excellent.
So,
So, can I just encourage or invite? I'm going to start using that word. Invite everyone because you can get this information for, and I'm going to be colloquial at this moment, for your mama and them, for your sister friends, for your cousins, for the aunties, for the little young girls that you're mentoring or you want to give a word to. So, before you
yes,
sort of lash out at them and say, why are you wearing that? Where you going? Just slide that information to them. So if everyone does that, just go to your phone. Matter of fact, I'm going to do it myself. Goes to your phone and text SOE Leadership to 42828 to join the mailing list.
to
Okay.
join our mailing list.
I'm going to do that right now so you can see what this is like.
And
So go
and
ahead.
another initiative that we're doing. It's called the Lip Balm Initiative. So, I started it, and just thank you for that plug.
Wait, tell them how it happened. Tell them how it happened. Y'all got to listen to this. Listen to this. Okay, go ahead. Tell them.
So, we want to make sure that if somebody is in a DV situation, that they have resources at the palm of their hand. And they sometimes they can't always use their phone because the abuser may be connected to their telephone, or they may not have access to their phone. So we started the Lip Balm initiative, where it's just a tube of lip balm, and inside,
Wait, there's more. There's more. There's more in the lip
when
balm.
you roll
Watch.
it up, it's like a little scroll with DV hotline information.
Mic
And we
drop.
we did lip balm because it's universal. It could be male or female, because men are victims of domestic violence as well. And you could just roll it back down, drop it in your purse, and you have the information right there.
Hold on. Put that up again. I'm going to take a picture of that.
Sure.
Wait, hold. Okay. Beautiful. Got it. So I actually want to show people what this looks like. Let me take that down. Okay. So this is what I've done. You just text, if you see it, just text 42828, right? And of course, it says no results found because I've never done that before. Oops. Text 42828. All right. And then, so when someone, now how do people get the lip balm? Because I'm going to do this.
Well, good question. We are distributing them, when we do vending. But if someone would like to send SOE a donation, you could go to our website and send us a note, and we could send you some for your church or your organization, because this is something somebody could just have. They may not be able to, or need it today, but they know that it's there in their purse. They could pass it along to someone. It's very discreet.
Mm-hmm.
And no one would rarely think, or even think to look in, a lip balm tube for DV information.
Who would have thought? And so
So,
what I said when Dr. Selina mentioned it to me, I said, there's life in the lip
and
balm.
life in the lip balm. Yes, indeed.
There is life in the lip balm. So yes, this is an excellent way to provide information on the low or on the QT, right?
Yes.
Beautiful way. And so here's, yes, the blue. Okay, here's another one. The blue campaign uses a comb with a 1-800 number for the trafficking hotline. There's another
Excellent.
excellent resource.
Excellent. So we
Please.
have to be
Mhm.
creative in how we help survivors, because just keep in mind that the abuser uh, keeps them from access to outside resources. They, shut them down from family, or may not allow them to use the phone, or they can only go to work, and, everything about their life may be timed. Like, okay, you get off work at 5, you should be home by 5:10. If you get in at 5:15,
There's question.
something's going to happen.
Right, right.
So, as a church, and I know we're like nearing to the hour.
Wait,
Um,
hold on a second. Dr. Clifton, please drop in the comments if we have permission to go over our time. This is such necessary information. I'm sure it's going to be like, keep going. Go ahead.
you, there are a number of things that a congregation can do. just become a safe place. And becoming a safe place, and one of the things I stress when I'm doing a DV workshop is confidentiality. If you are a person that cannot keep confidentiality, this is not the ministry for you, because it can be life and death for someone if you share their information.
Now, can I ask a question? Because this is your personal ministry, what is the what background do you have in addition to being a survivor that qualifies you to provide this as a resource to go church to church or civic organization or social organization to deliver this information?
Sure. So I'm a certified domestic violence response team member.
Thank you.
I've done numerous trainings on domestic violence. I completed my doctoral thesis on domestic violence and the Black church response. And that's where I created this curriculum for the church.
Enough said. Enough said. So let me just complete this. So here is what I'm doing,
Okay.
42828. I actually pressed the little dots up in order to make sure I could send a message. So I'm going to send the message.
Okay.
And then here's my little space. I don't know if you can see, there's a glare. And I'm going to type SOE.
Leadership.
It's not case sensitive, right?
No, it's not.
Beautiful. I'd be in trouble. Okay, SOE leadership. I'm typing that in the text box. And then I'm going to press send. There we go. So that's what it should look like. And then I should get a response back.
Yes.
Guess in a day or so. And then I will be on the mailing list. So it is that
Yes.
simple. It is that simple. Again, everyone should at least do this part, because when you get on their mailing list and you see certain signs, and I would love to sort of like shift to what are some signs that we may see or may not see that we can say, you might want to do this, just to share it with someone that needs it. I think that's what I have identified. If I see someone experiencing some situation, as I'm passing information, I could say, I'm just sharing this with people. Maybe you can pass it on to those people who might
Yes.
need it.
Right. And you could just save it in your phone. Save the hotline number when we give the hotline number out, and save it as a different name, like not domestic violence hotline. It could be the local pizzeria
Right.
that you could share, because you have to be very discreet
Right.
about, dealing with a victim. Very discreet.
Right. Right. Um, I want to thank you just for sharing this piece of information right now. What would be the next step if people who are watching us live or on the replay, what would be the first thing that they could do to get mm, to get this piece, so to get the curriculum to their churches? So, and I'm saying this because there is a protocol within the Black church. We
Yes.
reach out to you first? How do we gently give this information to our leadership? What have you found? Because if you have your PhD in this and you've already engaged with a number of Black churches about this, what do you think would be the best protocol in order to discuss ministry morphing and the
Yes.
establishment of creating
Mhm.
safe spaces for victims of domestic violence?
So each congregation is different. So you have to know your congregation and your church leadership. It could be a women's ministry that would like to bring it in. You may have to talk to your leader to see if they want to bring it in, because most of our churches are led by men, and they may not want domestic violence training in the church.
In essence, don't start nothing, won't be nothing. We
Right.
don't have that conversation here. We're not trying to open up a Pandora's box. We don't need that. Or let me hear like 5 or 10 people who come to me and say that this has happened, and then maybe I'll think about it. Where's my tea? Excuse
It
me.
yes. Yes. And if we were to do a count, 1 in 3 women will be a survivor of domestic violence.
Please, everybody, if you can, just type in 1 in 3. Just type in 1 in 3.
1 in 3. So if you were to do a count off on a Sunday morning with the first few pews in your church, it is likely that someone has been a victim of domestic violence.
You mean even the people in the pretty white hats sitting on the front row?
Even the people in the pretty white hats.
You mean even the ushers on the usher board?
Even the ushers on the usher board.
Hold on. You mean even the people in the choir loft?
In the choir loft.
You mean
So,
the elders and the mothers of the church?
mm, yes.
Not them. Not
And
them
a,
with the
and
white cloth.
a lot of people stay because that's what they're taught to do. I I always share the story. I was doing a domestic violence exercise where, it was different scenarios, and you had to say stay or
Mm.
leave, and depending on the severity of the situation. And it was this one mother that was there, and she was, well into her 70s, and she always stayed as we went through the exercise when people were screaming to her, "Leave, why are you staying?" And she said that's because that's what she was taught to do. And
So,
that stuck
mhm.
with me because there are so many people, that's what we're taught to do. So we endure.
And like the poem says, we wear the mask.
We could wear the mask.
We wear the mask. So let me just say that there are 22 people, for the record, on this platform. Let's just let that sink in for a little bit. You know where I'm going with this, right?
That's right.
We just heard the statistic. I'm not calling anybody out. I can't see anybody else's name. But let's just have a moment of silence. Toxic theology.
Yes.
We don't have to endure it anymore. This is Thursdays in Black. This is the perfect conversation to have on this day. It
Yes.
is the perfect conversation to have during February, where we discuss not only the power of our ancestors in the 28 days, the struggle that they endured over time, just being where they were,
Mhm.
traveling how they traveled to different lands, enduring the hardships and the struggles, not just of internal toxic relationships within their own household, not to mention, and you know where I'm going with this, the toxic relationships that occurred during plantation life.
Yes.
Yes, we are the daughters and the sons of not just the kings and queens of our land before this one, but also of the craftsmen,
Yes.
also of the builders, also of the agricultural workers, also of the miners, also of the fishermen and fisherwomen, also of the people that held court, also of the people who built their own homesteads and took care of their own agriculture. But in those relationships, some people were unbalanced and thought that the body of a woman and the body of men
Mm-hmm.
We're not to be thought of as having a soul.
Yes.
Now, with passing of laws, the intentional attacks upon people was supposed to stop. But within the privacy of a home, that's a different
It's
territory.
a different territory.
Dr. Selina, we are so blessed and honored to have this conversation.
Thank you. Thank
We
you for
got
having me.
we got a beautiful thank you, Dr. Selina Carter from Dr. Angelita Clifton. And I think
Thank
this is a
you.
great statement to end on. It is definitely a conversation we need to have in the church.
Yes.
I invite every single person here, whether you see it or not, whether you have seen somebody wear dark glasses or not, whether you have seen somebody wear long sleeve shirts or tops during warm weather, whether or not you have seen people who were always sitting in the third row and the fourth seat over or the back row, and then you don't see them for a couple of weeks and you call them and maybe they're not answering their phone, or come
Hmm.
on with us, like drop all the others, the clues. Maybe their number changed.
Yes.
Maybe they used to talk to you all the time and now they don't, they're like jittery.
Right. Just look for the sign. Just notice something is not right. If you know Sister so and so was outgoing and bubbly, and then they're withdrawn, get her by herself. And sis, are you okay?
I
We
really
have a responsibility.
I really appreciate the tip, if you will, to put the number, the number into your phone, but of course, change the name.
Yes.
That anyone and everyone can do.
Mm-hmm.
Because if that number is in the phone, you could at least go to someone who may. You don't even have to know the person
Right.
and do one of these numbers. Or like leave it on the table with the number showing.
Like you
They'll
said.
know.
Yes. They'll know.
Or you should be able to just recite that number, whatever that hotline number is. Did you do you remember what that number is? Can someone, if they
Yes.
know what that number,
Mm-hmm.
what's that number?
It's
Because I'm
1
going to type it in the
800
chat.
799 7233.
Excuse me, I'm typing it because I want to be able to type it, but realistically, this is called motor memory. Whoever's here, type it in the chat
One,
because your
yes,
fingers are
yes.
going to remember that you saw it, that you had to remember it,
Mm-hmm.
and that you typed it. And of course, we're going to say, it's not for you, the 21 people who are here, 1 in 3. It's for somebody who might need it,
Yes.
someone who you might know. And so our last, here we go. Thank you, Dr. Clifton, for trauma-informed ministry is important if we intend to help without doing harm. Those people who have followed us for like the past 2 years that I've noted, 2, maybe 3 years, we've had during October a period or some study on trauma-informed ministry. We've read some amazing texts about the work, and we've had great dialogue that makes this conversation right now very poignant for the day. Not
Yes.
just because, again, it's Black History Month, not just because it's the day of focused of love and of
Right.
passion and compassion and passion and partnership and loving relationships. Not everybody is kind of happy during this month, and
That's right.
for a variety of reasons. But this conversation is right on time, right
Yes.
in the throes. If anybody has any other any questions or comments, Dr. Selina and I, or the members of the Lott Carey Wise staff, will be able uh, to respond or to field some of the questions. I, I- Dr. Selena, please, you're going to take a moment to give your last words. I want to actually just give a last word. Your minister is there for a purpose. That minister has qualifications that can meet the needs of the congregation.
Yes.
You can add on to your wellness team by eliciting the support of licensed therapists, licensed counselors to add on to your wellness team. It is okay. We say that Jesus will work it out. We say that all we need is Jesus. Jesus will allow you to have a therapist. It's okay.
Yes, it is okay. And it's okay to connect with resources in the community. Like, again, you cannot do it all. And it's so important to have training for your leaders. Uh, the training makes a world of difference. And also for victims and survivors to hear it come across the pulpit about healthy relationships, that domestic abuse will not be tolerated. Like, they need to hear that so they're comfortable to come to someone to say, I need help. If it's not being said, then they don't know if it's okay, that if it's a safe space for them. So we need to hear
Right.
the preaching, and we need to hear it being said from the leaders that it is not okay. And also holding the abuser accountable. They must be held accountable.
I know it's a touchy subject, but sometimes that holding of accountability could call into question their
Oh,
title, their title, and whether or not for a time that maybe that title needs to be shifted. But I guess that's part two. So, Dr. Selena, we'll have to have you back.
most definitely. I would love to come back. This was a great conversation.
To all that have listened, we thank you so much for Dr. Selena Carter to have the we have the plum, how did Les Brown say it? The plum pleasing pleasure of having you on our digital couch to wrap up our 1 year. This is our first
Yes.
full year. We have finished 12 episodes of the Lott Carey Wise digital couch
Amen.
with people who are far and wide and some people who are just across the street. We thank you so much for the blessed work that you have worked so tirelessly as a
You're
result of
welcome.
being a survivor. And so we literally know that you speak from the heart, you
Yes.
speak from the seat, you speak from a place of not just purpose, but of power. And we are
Yes.
so grateful. We're thankful that you feel strong enough to speak out on behalf of those people who can't even whisper.
Yes.
So we thank you for your voice, your ministry. Please, everyone, go and follow soeleadership.org. Number one. Number two, please type in, where is that? Let me get that number up again. Where is it? I'm trying to get where did it go? Sorry, but here we go. Here we go. Number two, text SOE Leadership to 42828 to join the mailing list. Again, you can join the mailing list and then share it with somebody else. That's
Yes.
number two. Number three, go and just share the information with your civic groups, with your community groups, with your, if you're a part of a sorority or like the
Mhm.
Eastern Star or the Masons. I mean, this is for brothers as well. The please, we need our brothers to be a part of this conversation just
Yes.
so that they know women are not punching bags.
That's right.
They're not property. They're loving human beings that are made by God. So
Yes.
text SOE Leadership, follow soeleadership.org. contact Dr. Selina Carter in order for her to come out. Of course, go through the protocol that you know to call at your church to see if you can get this maybe for a women's conference or women's day or something like that, so that it is an easier sell to bring into your community. Also, try see if you can get into the Zoom call so that you can at least hear
Yes.
with your
Hmm.
cameras off and your name changed. Invite some people, invite some young girls, and especially if you mentor young girls or young women,
Yes.
they like go chat with her, go have her come and just, or even I'm sure you have some short, like a short course or something, or short videos. At least find the videos that she has and just send them off into an email.
Yes. Hmm.
It's very important. Dr. Selina Carter, please send us off. What's
Well,
your final word?
thank you again so much for having me. And, if anyone is looking to learn more about it, because we just barely scratched the surface here this evening, um, please reach out to me. Thank God that we're able to do Zoom, so it doesn't matter where you are. We could do a workshop online, but just don't go about and not do anything. You must do something to help our women and children who are experiencing domestic violence. So, thank you again for having me. I really appreciate it.
On that note, we look forward to seeing you all same day, same time, the first Thursday of every month, where we will start episode 13. I guess we'll have to call this like season 2. I'm really thrilled. I'm looking with anxious anticipation on who's going to be on
Yes.
our couch next time. I do thank you all again. Please, if you have any additional questions that were not able to be shown through the my chat on my right, that just send them up. Leave them leave them, excuse me, on either YouTube or Facebook, and we'll be able to respond to them. But please text the SOE leadership to 42828. Share the information with your civic groups, your church, your family, the young women, and just have this conversation continued in
Yes.
wherever you can, because we all need to be loved without harm. Peace
Yes.
and
Love does
blessings.
not hurt.
Let's love. Okay. Can we have everybody type in and love does not hurt? God bless you all, and we'll see you next time.
All right.
On behalf of the leadership of the Lott Carey Baptist Farm Mission Convention, we say good night.
Good night. Thank you.